Without further ado, I mean, on that note, as Conrad gets set up, Conrad has a whole new setup here. You know, he got straight A's this last semester, so his parents bought him a brand new computer. It's glowing. Maybe next semester, if he gets all A's again, they'll upgrade the modem. You know, they're still using that the dial-up. Did you have AOL? Are you old enough to remember when like the internet connected? Like,
oh no. I mean, I might have been old enough, but I never used it because I was probably like 2, right? So I was never actually on it. And just a heads up, it wasn't because like I got straight A's because I got a new computer. My computer broke, so I couldn't really the camera wasn't working, so I couldn't really use it anymore. So I had to get a new one. But you know what? We'll stick with the straight A's narrative, just so that way I seem a lot smarter to people.
Too much chat roulette in the middle of classes. Am I right?
Yeah. Totally. But
we got a really special episode today, and I'm gonna ask my co-host to kick it off.
Oh, all right. Okay, hang on. I got to turn off notifications before I get started here because I'm recording this on my cell phone, my very old cell phone for those of you that don't know. But today's going to be a very interesting day. We're going to be saving some playoff predictions for next episode because then the season will officially be wrapped up and we'll know who's going to be facing who in the play-in and the playoffs. But today we're going to get to some award predictions, right? I know we have a couple games left, like I just mentioned, but I mean, come on, is that seriously going to make a huge impact? I think on the picks, I don't necessarily think it will. But you know, I think it's going to be time for good conversation. And then on top of that, there will be a bit of a debate as well. There was a debate that was sparked 1 or 2 days ago. I think it was just yesterday. A clip that we recently released on a hot take that Andrew has. I personally disagree with him. And we're going to be talking about it a little bit back and forth. There was a lot of controversy surrounding that clip, so it's going to be very interesting to get into. And I think you guys might enjoy it. Maybe not. Who knows? We'll see what the outcome is once it's all wrapped up. But
imagine that, living in a free country, this beautiful country of ours, the United States, and we're allowed to disagree. Imagine that. What a beautiful world we live in.
Yes.
I feel blessed. 100%. I feel blessed. But you're right. Let's get into the awards because next week is the season's going to wrap up.
Yep.
It's going to be. I'm so excited for playoffs. You know what this postseason reminds me of, and you know, for avid NBA fans, like true NBA fans, I think we love this. I think like the fan that checks in for just the playoffs, they might be a little disappointed not to have the best of the best playing. I guess like the Warriors and the Lakers, but it reminds me of kind of those years in late 2000s, early 2010s. When, you know, the Mavs, the Spurs, you know, these underdog teams would win as a unit, as a collective unit. And when there's no cream of the crop, even, I mean, I guess that Celtics team that played the Lakers, that was fun in like 2008. But I love that. I love seeing teams rally around each other and make a deep postseason run. The Mavs are a good example of that. And I hope we see something like that today, this playoff because it's really wide open. It really is so wide open.
Well, there's actually a couple things I do want to touch up on. I mean, we could mention these in a future episode, but 2 things I do want to say is Spencer Dinwiddie has potential to return in the offseason, which I didn't expect as someone that has invested in Dinwiddie. And if that happens, it's game over. Like, Nets are winning it all. I'm not going to give up on the Lakers because, you know, if LeBron and AD do come back full strength, I think that they have a real good shot. But if Dinwiddie comes back, it's scary for literally everybody else. Like, they're coming out of the East, no doubt, and it's going to be very scary finals for whoever else faces them. And on top of that, literally just, I want to say 10 minutes before we started recording, I don't know if you saw this, but Jaylen Brown is officially out for the rest of the season. And they are currently a 7th seed in the Eastern Conference, 2 games behind the 6th seed, meaning that they will probably be in the play-in game, meaning that a 9, 10, or 8 seed has potential to jump up to the 7th seed and knock the Celtics out of the playoffs, or at least a lot more realistic shot than they did before, meaning my Pacers still have a potential real legitimate shot at making the playoffs, even though we suck right now and we've also been dealing with injuries.
What do you think about your guys' loss to the Wizards this weekend?
It was a rough loss. I mean, Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook balled out. We lost by 1 point. They have a terrible supporting cast. I mean, it's very 50-50. I mean, if we had Miles Turner, maybe things would have been different, right? But
is Karis LeVert, like, is he kind of, like, I want to like Karis LeVert, but he kind of, I don't want to use the word
a huge
stupid.
Fan when the deal went through.
I don't want to use the word stupid, but he mauled Westbrook on the foul. And then he had the audacity to be like, what are you calling? He literally jumped into him. And he got his body, he got his legs, and he got his arm.
Yeah.
What was he thinking there? I don't understand. That was a big game for the Pacers.
Yeah.
It was a really big game.
It was a big game for the Wizards, too. I mean, in all honesty, it really puts them that much closer to really locking in a playoff spot because now they're only, I think, one game behind the Hornets. But anyway.
You watched that game. You watched that game, though.
I watched closing minutes, but I couldn't get to the whole thing. I was doing
the Wizards were not fresh. They were tired.
I mean, that was a
they were on
job by Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook the entire time. Their supporting cast sucked that entire game. It was terrible. But
that was a very winnable game for the Pacers. And I was like, I'm not a big fan of Karis LeVert because to me he puts up good numbers, but he takes a ton of bad shots. He doesn't necessarily make the right play at the right time. And then that play at the end of the game, I do agree doubling them there, and I know you want to move to the next segment, Conrad. Be patient. It's okay. We'll get there. Do you have a lot of homework tonight? Be honest. Do you have too much homework tonight? So we got to wrap this quick.
Tonight is a night where I'm like caught up. I don't really have anything else to do. I'm all set. I'm all good.
So before we get into it, what's a guy like Conrad do on the weekends? Give people a little taste. Give our Luca Nation, our Scouts fans and followers a taste into what does someone like Conrad do on the weekends?
I mean, it kind of depends, right? I mean, I'm just so popular and everybody wants to hang out with me that I kind of have to pick, who I'm going to be hanging out with for the week, and then I of course accept payment because people literally will pay to hang out. No, I'm kidding. I'm not that cool. It kind of depends on what I am doing for the week, though, right? Sometimes I work with my dad if I have to. Sometimes I have show choir. For those of you that don't know, I am a show choir kid and band kid as well. I'm very musically gifted, actually, in my opinion. I'm relatively.
Well, I remember you dropped bars. Remember you dropped that TikTok video when you were.
I've been a rap before in my life, but you know what? Things worked out, so I'm not going to complain about it. But drumming and band and show choir, whatever. And a lot of times weekends are the times where I will create pretty much all my content for the week, or at least most of it. That way I can release it, throughout the week. But sometimes I have weekends like this week where I didn't have time to do that. I was busy working with my dad or Mother's Day or whatever happens, and things fall through, right? So,
what's your favorite type of music? Who's your favorite band?
Okay, literally anything. Oh, well, I don't have a favorite band. Favorite artist is Bruno Mars all day. Bruno Mars and Michael Jackson. I grew up on Michael Jackson as I got older, and Bruno Mars became more mainstream. It was Bruno Mars all day. But I'll listen to pretty much anything as long as it's not like opera or heavy metal. As long as it's not like too heavy. I basically have to be able to understand what you're saying in order to enjoy listening to it. Because opera just sounds like you're yawning the entire time. And heavy metal, I can't understand what you're saying when you scream into a microphone. So that's my opinion on music. There you go.
Well, our fans of Scouts, people have reached out to me. They love this segment. They know it's going to be the big segment that we do moving forward. So to our fans, let's go through the awards. This is going to be fun. Are you going to start this? Are we going to start with the MVP, or let's start somewhere else? Up to you.
MVP and working my way a little bit down as far as like the more exciting awards go. I say we start off with a bang, and I'm starting with my MVP pick. I'm going with Nikola Jokic, although I'm going to say Stephen Curry and Luka Doncic are close seconds for the fact that they have been able to carry their teams into playoff spots, 8th seed or above, with terrible, terrible, terrible supporting casts in a very good Western Conference. And I mean, granted, 5 through 8 seed, relatively close race, but it's still a playoff spot regardless, and that's why they would be second place. But Nikola Jokic has been absolutely unstoppable. He's played every single game, nearly averaging a triple-double. The team is now a 4th or 3rd seed in the Western Conference. They're 4th seed, but only one game behind the Clippers at the moment, right? Very good team. He also lost his second option in Jamal Murray, and of course, MPJ is the better second option in my opinion. And I've said that for a little while, and he's kind of proven me right. But anyways, he still lost a solid 20-point per game score on the team, and they've still been able to maintain their strength and their execution on offense has pretty much been at the same level. And I have to give him the MVP award this year. There's no doubt in my mind.
Did you see what Nick Wright said about Jokic being the worst?
He's an idiot. Oh my gosh, he's an idiot.
Can I finish? I could see you've only done 5 shows, so I know Conrad's trigger happy. He's trigger happy. There's a good quote I learned: "Keep your powder dry." It's a famous Gettysburg, the War of Gettysburg. A general said, "Keep your powder dry, so don't shoot off your best ammunition." So Nick Wright said that Nikola Jokic will be the most overrated or the worst statistical MVP in the last 33 years. So you already given a preview of why you think that he's an idiot, but elaborate if you don't mind.
I mean, I don't really understand where his take is really coming from on that one, right? I mean, if you look at this, okay, he says the worst statistical MVP that we've seen in 30 years. Yet once again, the guy is almost averaging a complete triple double on ridiculous efficiency. His offensive rating is through the roof. Where's the worst statistical season that we've ever seen, right? Maybe you're talking about his defense, which is understandable. Then maybe say he's going to be the worst defensive MVP that we've seen in the last 30 years. Even then, I wouldn't necessarily say it's true. Off the top of my head, but regardless, it's basically all like it's ESPN, it's Sports Center. A lot of times they say stuff like that because they have to in order to get clicks. It just really pisses me off because I 100% disagree with that for that very reason. It just doesn't make sense exactly what he said. I mean, I just don't understand where he's coming from on that one.
Okay, let me ask you this.
What were you saying?
I agree. Jokic to me is the MVP. It's kind of a down year for MVPs. I think that was the angle. That was the angle he was going with. I'll read you a list of. So the last MVP starting for 2020 and working my way down is Giannis, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Curry, Durant, LeBron, Derrick Rose, LeBron, Kobe in 2008, Dirk in 2007, Steve Nash, Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan, Allen Iverson, Shaquille. That's back to the year 2000.
Mm-hmm.
When you hear those names, now I know Jokic had an amazing season offensively. He had a really good offensive season. But his team's in fourth in a wide open Western Conference. It's not like this Western Conference this year was on par with some of the previous years. You have the Phoenix Suns, the Jazz, and the Clippers right above him. Does he have a point?
Not necessarily. I mean, he's not comparing the names, he's comparing the individual seasons. And off the top of my head, I would say this season, maybe you could throw him in there as far as being better than, Derrick Rose's season. You could say that he was that, right? Because I think a lot of narrative played in factor with Rose's MVP season. As much as I love the guy, sure, he was a super young player. He was talking about, hey, why can't I be the youngest MVP ever? The Bulls were on top of the Eastern Conference, playing at an extremely high level, most exciting player in the entire NBA. But I wouldn't say that statistically speaking, as Nick Wright was saying, that it was necessarily better than Jokic's. You could also say the same thing with Nash, even though, of course, those Suns teams were, of course, at the top of the Western Conference, right? And what you did mention was the Nuggets are the fourth seed. Now, in my opinion, I would say that, in fact, the Western Conference is more competitive than it has ever been because that is how even the talent is in the league. Right? I mean, that's why we're seeing such relatively close standings. That's why there's so many teams that we could see potentially win the championship. Not necessarily because all of these teams are so much worse or they've all taken a step back, but because they've all gotten so much better and they're all it's such an evenly dispersed competition now in comparison to years prior. Whereas before it was just Warriors are the number one seed, Cavaliers are the one seed, Heat are the one seed, Spurs are the one seed, whatever it is. Now it's more competitive. Does that really necessarily play into Jokic's favor at all, or play against him in any favor at all? In my opinion, not really. But once again, I mean, this is a matter of opinion. Maybe I'm wrong on that one. But
did you get a chance to watch Karl Malone play ever?
Oh God, no, not at all.
So Karl Malone was the MVP in 1999 and 1997, and his Jazz team was number one in the league. I think they were the best offensive team then, but that was a lot about John Stockton.
Yeah.
Is that a comparison? Is that an accurate comparison? Kind of Jokic, the next close, because all the guys I mentioned there, Derrick Rose, but other than that, these guys are all Hall of Famers and more than likely first ballot Hall of Famers. And maybe the future is really bright for Jokic. I just see that. I see what Nick Wright is going with there. I agree. People say he's an idiot.
I don't think that he worded it in the right way whatsoever. If he was to say this, he is the least. What's the I don't even know the proper way to word it. Like, he's just not a big name. He's not your typical MVP candidate. He's not a typical guy. Overweight, European big man that is very slow.
He lost weight. He's fit.
That is true. He's nowhere near as overweight as he used to be. But I mean, that's just how we imagine him in the NBA. If you don't watch enough basketball or anything like that, right? That's just how he's portrayed as a slow. And I mean, he's slow and sluggish still, right? He's not exactly the fastest guy on the court. So that's just.
Are you talking about Cage or Jokic right now?
we should clip that and send it to Cage himself. I mean, it classifies for both, in all honesty. Although I would say that Jokic has by far got better looks, just in my opinion. But he's just not your typical MVP candidate. If that's where Nick Wright is going, I 100% agree with him. He's not the big name. He's not a crazy flashy player, although he does have some excellent plays, of course. But he's just not the typical MVP candidate by any means, and that I would agree with. Statistics wise, I 100% disagree on that one personally.
Let me ask you one thing real quick, and then we'll move to the next awards because they do get fun. Yeah. Eastern Conference MVP, who do you give it to?
That is tough. Giannis, honestly, might be honest. Giannis or Embiid would probably be number one. I would consider Harden in that conversation. The issue is that a lot of the top candidates that you would consider putting in there have been injured. Maybe Kyrie. I mean, at this point, I don't even know. Like Eastern Conference, it would be one of those four guys. I just have no idea who. I feel like I'd probably
Embiid's missed a lot of games.
Exactly, but like all of them really have. I think besides Kyrie, Harden's been out and he won't probably return until like legitimately one of the last games of the season, right? Giannis has missed some time. Embiid was out for longer, and I don't know for sure about Kyrie. I'd have to double check about that one. I'd probably honestly maybe put Giannis at one. I don't know for sure. I'd have to like do some more research.
Embiid's played 49 games. Embiid played 49 games out of 72. Remember, guys, it's a shortened season. So Embiid played 49 out of 72. Giannis played 57 out of 72.
I'd probably go
and
Giannis.
The Sixers are first. Nets are second. Bucks are third. Sixers are clear-cut first now. But Nets and Bucks are fighting for that number 2 spot.
I'd say Bucks. I'm not Bucks. I'd say Giannis, honestly. He's basically doing the same exact thing he did last year. In my opinion, honestly, I do love the Drew Holiday trade, but I don't think it really made them significantly better as far as the supporting cast goes. Their depth was one of the biggest reasons they had so much regular season success. I'd honestly probably go Giannis on this one. At that point, I don't really think that there's a ton of there's a ton of other guys that you could consider putting in there, but that's my pick.
So last thing, I love this riff.
No, go ahead.
The Knicks. The Knicks are sitting with 38 wins. And I would argue that team roster, I mean, is it better than the Warriors? Yes. Does Julius Randle deserve a little bit of attention for MVP? If we're talking about truly most valuable player to the team.
Maybe. Because a lot of the reason for the Knicks' success is their defense, which can be credited to Tom Thibodeau more than anybody. Right. So while I do think that obviously, Julius Randle is having a fantastic season and does deserve a lot of credit for that. And of course, he has gotten it.
24 points a game, 10 rebounds a game, 6 assists.
Top 10, but I wouldn't have him as a clear-cut winner, in my opinion. I'd say top 10. Maybe he's 7th or 8th. Maybe he's 6th, borderline top 5. I would not have him winning the award personally. I don't think that he's been the most valuable player. I don't think he's been so far ahead of everyone else on his team at this rate that I would call him the most valuable player. I think that a lot of that has to do with Tom Thibodeau.
So let's actually go to, I know it goes MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Sixth Man of the Year, Most Improved, Rookie of the Year.
Andrew, go whatever.
Let's go most improved because I think Randall deserves to be in contention for most improved, actually.
I think he wins it. I don't think anyone else comes close. You could say Christian Wood, but he's missed time. You could say Jeremy Grant, but he's on a terrible team. Same thing, of course, as Christian Wood. After that, who else is really in the conversation? Chris Boucher? All right.
I don't know. Chris Boucher sounds like a hockey player, so let's not talk about hockey yet. We'll do a different episode. Let me just give you Julius Randle's stats. Last year, he was 19 points a game. This year, he's 24 points a game. Last year, 3 assists. This year, 6 assists. Last year, 9.7 rebounds. This year, 10.3. So about the same. Yep. Free throw percentage up for 74%, 73% to 80%. 2-point percentage down a little bit from 50% to 48%. 3-point percentage. This is wild.
It's ridiculous.
Last year, he was making 27.5% from 3. Now he's shooting 40%. Here's the kicker. On 5 attempts, he makes 2 attempts.
Yeah.
That's impressive. That's impressive.
And if you actually watch the Knicks play basketball as well, he's now drawing double teams. He's playing ISO ball, which we've never really seen out of him like at a high level before. It's Julius Randle all day. I don't think you can really you can make a case for other guys, but there's no way that you can pick anyone else over him, in my opinion, for this award. I don't see how you could do it. I don't.
I'm with you. I think earlier, so I'm looking at this on NBA.com. This is from 3/10, March 10th. So obviously 2 months ago, which everything changes. Some people had Jeremy Grant, some people had Jaylen Brown, and some people had Christian Wood. But I think in this last 2 months, it's obvious Randle has completely separated himself.
100%. I mean, I knew Jeremy Grant was never going to be a legitimate contender for the award because he was on such a bad team. I mean, they're literally last place in the Eastern Conference right now. Although I will admit, like before injuries, I honestly might have had Christian Wood winning it over him until, of course, he did get injured, and they've obviously sucked since then. And I mean, Jaylen Brown could deserve to be in that conversation. I'd say he'd honestly probably potentially be over Jeremy Grant, but I wouldn't have him winning the award over Julius Randle. The jump is just not as significant with him as it has been with Randle this season. I don't have anyone else besides Randle winning the award, personally. Now,
let's keep rocking.
I want to transition because we're already talking about the Knicks. I want to transition to Coach of the Year. Coach of the Year is between 3 guys, in my opinion. It is very close. I honestly don't know for sure if I could really pick one, but to me, it is either Tom Thibodeau, Quinn Snyder, or Monty Williams. And those are the 3 candidates. And you can make a case for all of them. Real quick, let me plug in my phone because it's about to die. Hang on. My phone is very old, so of course, I've got to just make sure that it never dies.
This kid is so ill-prepared for every one of our episodes. Either his phone's not charged, his internet's not working, his computer is old and dying. It's unbelievable. And this is a kid who has all of this antique memorabilia in his basement. Like he has like the first edition like pinball machine and Pac-Man arcade games. You should see this kid's basement. It's insane. He has so many different toys and tchotchkes.
Everything is older in this house. Everything is older in this house is basically the best way to put it. Anyway, those are my 3 guys, right? And there's a case to be made for each of them, right? Because you could say Quinn Snyder. But in all honesty, the Jazz were way underrated at the beginning of the year. I mean, if you take a look at this roster, you could have definitely expected this roster to be top 5 in the standings, at least in my opinion. Monty Williams, I think he's done an excellent job, right? Suns have improved a ton, but I think honestly that has a lot to do with Chris Paul as well as Monty Williams. I think both of them.
Who's the coach? Who's really the coach, right? When you bring in a 45-year-old point guard.
Monty Williams was really helpful last year with Devin Booker and helping him improve much as a playmaker, and he kind of got the base, like the support. I don't know how to describe it, but he got the foundations ready to help this team take the next step. But I think Chris Paul is the one that actually took them to the next level. And that's like the case against Monty Williams. And Tom Thibodeau, the only real knock against him is that like they're not a 1 seed or anything like that. But I think he's really, really played a significant part in this team's improvement. I think he's been the biggest or one of the biggest reasons why they're so good defensively this year and why they are the 4 seed currently in the Eastern Conference. I'd probably go Thibodeau, and Monty Williams and Quinn Snyder are both very close second places, and they do deserve to at least be mentioned in the conversation.
I go Tom Thibodeau. I think it's hard, right? When the Jazz are this weird team where I feel like they remind me of the Bucks. Not last year, but maybe 2 years ago. I don't remember when the Bucks had the best record, but they would not lose to any under 500 teams. They would just beat up on the worst of the worst, right? They would have no off nights, but they're also not the most talented team, right? So Quinn Snyder's done a good job year after year after year after year of improving and getting the most out of that roster. At the same time, Gobert, Defensive Player of the Year candidate. Donovan Mitchell, most people would say he's a star. Mike Conley, proven winner. People forget he used to play on the Grizz, and the Grizz were better with him. Joe Ingles, respectable, really good three-point shooter. Bogdanovich, really good three-point shooter.
Clarkson, Favors.
I hate Clarkson. I got to be honest with you, man. I think
I mean, look, even if you don't like the guy, he's still
a
good player and has improved.
He's a chucker.
He is a little bit, but you're gonna hate my 6th man of the year pick. But anyway, continue.
It's hard. I think you have to give it to him because no other 6th man was just good. It's not like he was the best 6th man of the year.
I don't know. Do you want to continue talking about Coach of the Year at this point? Do you want to transition to 6th man of the year?
Oh, this is interesting. Do you guys know that Jordan Clarkson's is Filipino? Interesting. I'm Wikipediaing him because I want to see his stats. Oh, I go Tom Thibodeau. I go Tom Thibodeau just because of how he overperformed.
Mm-hmm. I think everyone had the Knicks as like a bottom 3 team in the Eastern Conference this year, and they're not top 4. So yeah, I agree. And as far as 6th man of the year goes, I do have Jordan Clarkson. There's really no other candidates. I mean, like the 6th man of the year award, it's an underwhelming award. I don't think a lot of people tend to care too much about it. If you were to look at if you were to really do a deep dive, maybe there's a 6th man that is more valuable than him that I just haven't taken notice of. But he is doing an excellent job of scoring off of the bench, plays some okay defense, gets a couple of rebounds, not much of a playmaker, but he's taken on a scoring role, and I think he leads by a pretty large margin as far as scoring off of the bench goes for anybody in the NBA. So he's my pick. I mean, this isn't an award I think that we have to go too deep into. It's kind of boring, but if you have anything else you wanted to say, go right ahead.
Take it away, killer.
Exactly. I was about to say, like, there's nothing else. Now, okay, hang on. I kind of want to go, just because we're currently talking about Jordan Clarkson and the Jazz, I kind of want to go with my Defensive Player of the Year pick. But I also, you know what, we can save Rookie of the Year for last. Even though I think that my closing statements for Defensive Player of the Year are better, I'm going to go with Defensive Player of the Year right now. And to me, this should pretty much be, no. This should unanimously be Rudy Gobert winning Defensive Player of the Year. Unanimous decision. Now, I have literally written out my argument because I need to make sure that I get this right. So let me read out my entire argument.
Don't make any mistakes.
And
don't make any mistakes. Get it right.
And if you have anything that you disagree with or that you want to talk about, you can bring it up when I'm done. But just let me finish the entire thing. So, why Rudy Gobert deserves Defensive Player of the Year pretty much by unanimous decision. So, teams score 11.4 less points per 100 possessions when Gobert is on the court, right? And the main candidate behind him is Ben Simmons. I think you could agree with me there, correct, Andrew? Yes. And so when Simmons is on the floor, teams only score 2.4 less points per 100 possessions. That is a 9-point margin. And that is a significant margin because very few people are even 5 points per 100 possessions. And Rudy Gobert is 11.4. Now, on top of that, teams are 5.8 less efficient from the field when Rudy Gobert is on the floor versus when he's off. And when Simmons is on the floor, that number actually jumps up by 0.7%. More efficient from the field when he's on the floor than when he's off of it. Continuing this argument, the Jazz are one spot, I think, behind the 76ers in defensive rating as either the top 3 or top 4 defensive team as far as defensive rating goes. And in my opinion, he has a significantly worse supporting cast as far as defense goes compared to Ben Simmons on the 76ers. Let's compare the two. Ben Simmons has Matisse Thybulle, probably top 5 defender in the entire NBA. Joel Embiid, elite defender in the NBA. Dwight Howard, excellent rim protector. Danny Green, very good perimeter defender as well. You could maybe make a case for Tobias Harris. And after that, I wouldn't necessarily say that there's anybody else that plays a significant
most teams don't even have one of those guys, 2 of those guys. Exactly. So you're absolutely right. Thybulle might be a contender for Defensive Player of the Year in a few years, too. He's a stud.
100%. He's a defensive star. Now, looking at the Jazz, he has Mike Conley, who this season is pretty much borderline elite. I will give him credit there. Mike Conley is balling out on the defensive end, locking people up, especially at his size. It's very impressive. He's doing an excellent job defensively. As I mentioned before, you could maybe make a case for Jordan Clarkson, and Derek Favors is a good backup big, good rim protector. No one else really just stands out defensively. So, in my opinion, very significant drop-off in supporting cast as far as defense goes. Continuing on this argument, more shots are taken at the rim and players have a higher efficiency around the rim than any other place on the floor. If someone does get past a perimeter defender like Ben Simmons, then they have. Well, then of course the perimeter defender has no one or has nothing to worry about because he is the rim protector. The rim protector can go up and attempt to block the shot or block the layup or just make a contest on the shot in general. But the center, the rim protector, has to worry about all 5 players on the court potentially getting the ball or making a backdoor cut or attacking the basket or going up for a dunk. They have to worry about all 5 of them at all times on the court. They are the last line of defense, and rim protection is by far the most important type of defense on the floor. The final thing I want to say, because this argument has been brought up to me when I've been talking with people one-on-one, is Ben Simmons locks people down on the perimeter. And because of that, that means that if he locks them down, then there's no need for Rudy Gobert to be like Rudy Gobert does not have a role. He's not going to be having to go up to block a shot. That is just completely false. Because if someone does get stopped by Ben Simmons, they're just going to pass it to someone else. Right? I mean, like Ben Simmons is not guarding every single player on the floor. So they're just going to pass it to someone else who might, of course, have a shot at attacking the basket or getting to the rim. In which case, while he did lock someone up, Rudy Gobert is still very much needed as a rim protector. And so, in my opinion, for all those reasons, Rudy Gobert is the unanimous Defensive Player of the Year this season by far. It should not even be a debate, and I don't want to hear anything about it. Now, of course, I will let you.
That's quite an opening statement. You have a career. You have a career in law.
Maybe you never know. I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna want to study as long
I'm
as
curious
to.
two things. I'm curious two things, and this is how I play this game. I always like to understand stats with qualitative or watching the game. What do you think makes Gobert such an effective defender?
I mean, really, I think a lot of it comes down to his length and his height, right? He's just freakishly tall. He's going to swat away a lot of your shots. He has good defensive awareness around the perimeter. And here's the thing. If this was a playoff included award, right, a lot of people when making the MVP candidate or making the MVP decision last year, they were talking about, oh, it's a regular season award. This is a regular season award as well. In that case, I give it to Gobert. He's a terrible pick and roll defender, and people are going to take advantage of that in the playoffs. I know that, right? But he's got very good size to him, excellent length, big hands. He always goes up for a shot contest. He never really backs down. So you know that you're at least going to get bumped by him. He just does a very good job of protecting the paint overall. And it's very hard to at least get a good shot or a good look up against him unless he's, of course, lagging behind you or he's standing out on the perimeter or anything like that. That's why I think he makes a very good perimeter defender, or not perimeter defender, interior defender.
Explain something to me here, and then we'll wrap. How is Kawhi not in any of these?
Because he's not as good defensively as he used to be. As he's become better offensively, his defense has dropped off because he, of course, puts more effort and energy into the offensive side of the court. That's just what tends to happen with these guys. It just does, right? He's still a very good defender, but I would not have him winning Defensive Player of the Year. He's probably top 10, but after that, I don't think he really makes a good case for this award, personally.
All right.
Yeah.
Is it Rookie of the Year time?
We have not gotten
youngster.
Yes.
These guys are as old as you, Conrad. Isn't that crazy?
Makes me feel really, really unaccomplished in my life when I look at some of these. Like, that's really gonna hit me when I turn like 19 and I see like whatever Imani Bates and Chet Holmgren entering, their second or third seasons in the NBA and they're potentially superstars, and I'm like, so I've got followers on Instagram. What have you done, right? I feel very unsuccessful looking at some of these guys. It's insane.
But you know this, Conrad. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes, it is. I don't actually compare myself to them. I know I'm never gonna be a very good basketball player. I'm a very scrawny, under 6 foot, somewhat athletic kid that really struggles.
But you said it yourself. You're musically inclined. I'm musically inclined.
Yes, I'm very talented musically. If Anthony Edwards or LaMelo Ball or Tyrese Halliburton wants to drum battle with me, I will kick your butt and make sure that we post it on YouTube just to prove it. Yeah. But yes, so Rookie of the Year, only really 2 legitimate candidates to win the award, although Tyrese Halliburton does deserve a very very good honorable mention at 3rd. It's either Anthony Edwards or it's LaMelo Ball, right? And you could say, well, Anthony Edwards is scoring the most points. He's had a lot of fantastic games, and for that, I do give him credit. However, on top of leading the league in the most points per game, he's not really leading in any statistical category. He's pretty inefficient, and he's on the worst team in the entire NBA, and he doesn't play very good defense. Whereas LaMelo Ball, even though he has missed games, he's very close to Anthony Edwards as far as points per game goes. He leads the league, or not leads the league, but is, I think, leading in assists per game for Rookie of the Year. He's got a lot more rebounds, not a lot more, but he's getting a lot of rebounds in comparison to Anthony Edwards. He's playing some very good defense, and he's an extremely efficient scorer. On top of that, the Hornets are making a case to be a playoff team this year. They're the 8th seed currently in the Eastern Conference, and they were better before LaMelo's injury. They were actually, I think, the 5th seed before he got injured, and of course now they dropped off to 8th. Therefore, kind of showing the significance of both him and Gordon Hayward's impact on this team. While I do think that missing time is bad for him, I don't think it's enough to not give him the award this year. So I think LaMelo Ball is Rookie of the Year. Did I glitch out that entire time and you didn't hear anything I said?
I heard it all.
Okay, for a
I
second,
heard it
I thought
all.
that I glitched out and I got very nervous for a second, but I'm glad to hear that everything came out. Very good.
I think LaMelo's clearly head and shoulders above Edwards. I mean, I like Edwards. It's tough because, like, if there was a guy I'd want to go and hang out with and play ball with, spend the Saturday, go out, go to town, meet some girls. Edwards, actually, LaMelo's kind of hilarious too. Actually, Edwards and LaMelo would be a funny duo. But like, Edwards is he's just raw. He's a little inefficient. He's flashy. He can dunk, but if you just kind of peel it back, like LaMelo's way more effective, and he's done more. So to me, it's a no-brainer. So we're a little over time.
Yeah,
Mr. Conrad, I know you want to get in line with everybody, and take me out to town and hang me for saying anything negative about the Queen James. KG and I already went in. We already had this discussion. So what do you want to say? And more specifically, why do you think people get so triggered to someone's opinion? Like, again, it's just an opinion, right? Like, I sit here, I have a microphone, a camera, and we talk about sports. That's what we do on a daily basis. Sometimes we add value. Sometimes we shoot, we score. Sometimes we miss. Give me your take, brother.
Well, okay, so first thing that I want to say is, like, as clarification, I'm someone that would classify myself as a LeBron hater before I ever classify myself as a LeBron fan or a LeBron stan by any means. I never bring up the GOAT debate because I think it's the stupidest thing on the planet, but I would say that my GOAT is Michael Jordan before LeBron James 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10. And I still disagree with this argument because I don't think it is true. It kind of depends on the clarification of what you were saying, Andrew, because I did go back. For those of you that did not watch the episode yourself and see what context Andrew was trying to make here, I did go back and I watched the episode 304. I want to say it's like towards the middle or the end of the episode. I looked at it, and you mentioned how much worse the Lakers have gotten, how there's like no energy whatsoever on the court, right? How does that play into your argument before I get into this? Because I want to make sure that I'm not saying something that doesn't make any sense as far as disagreeing with you. Were you saying because they have no energy, LeBron should be picking them up and making them, feel better while he's off the court, cheering them on, motivating them, telling them, hey, run to this spot here, set this screen, run this play, stuff like that? Or is it something else that I'm not bringing up? That
it was layered. It was we talked the day before about who would you rather have if you're a GM, Tim Duncan or LeBron. So Tim Duncan created, I think, Hall of Famers, Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker. Another thing I looked at was the year Jordan didn't play for the Bulls. They were 55-27. The Lakers' record, not just this year. Remember, 2 years ago, LeBron pulled his groin. They were also really poor. The Lakers' record without LeBron was 11-17 this year. So I'm like, and then third was culture, belief, and leadership, even when you're not playing. And I felt like this team, even though LeBron has an ankle sprain, which isn't that, it's a relatively small injury, they look so defeated. It looks like they have no energy or belief. So it was a layered argument.
All right. Now, here's what I will say. I still 100% disagree with you, and here's why. Now, first of all, I'm not going to deny the fact that LeBron could be doing more to help his teammates out, especially in this situation. He could be on the sidelines telling people, hey, do a good job, lift your head up. Hey, do this, motivate him, and constantly be yelling off the bench like a player coach. He could be doing that. I'm not going to say he should be. I'm not going to be giving him crap for it. I'm not going to say that, hey, you need to do this. I don't really care. But I'm going to acknowledge the fact that, yes, he could potentially be doing that to help this team, of course, improve and look a little bit more energized this year. But here's the thing, and you did bring this up in a sense when you were talking about records, right? LeBron is the system. When you land LeBron James, and he calls you up and says, I'm coming to play with your team, you don't say, great, we have LeBron, we're going to the finals, we're not going to change our rotation, we're not going to trade any players, we're going to stick with our current roster and add LeBron James, and all's going to be good and all's going to be well. We're fine. That's not what happens, because LeBron is your system. Once you land LeBron, you structure your team around him to help him get to reach his highest potential and his highest production on the floor, which in turn raises the production level of everyone else on the court. And I can give you the formula for that. So once you get LeBron James, you look for a solid big man, someone that can work well in the pick and roll, hopefully with him, potentially be a good rim protector, right? If you can afford it. If they're not a good rim protector, it's fine, but definitely get someone that works well in the pick and roll and can be a nice big option next to LeBron. If you can still afford it, you land a secondary ball handler and a secondary scorer, someone like Dwayne Wade or maybe Kyrie Irving, right? After that, you look for guys that work well in catch and shoot situations and guys that can space the floor. If you can, of course, get guys that space the floor, just look for guys that can knock down mid-range shots in a catch and shoot situation. Why? Because when he's attacking the basket and, whatever, does a driving kick or dump off or swings the ball around the perimeter, rather than, of course, having to give it to someone that's just going to dribble around and find an open shot for themselves, he hits them when they're open and they can just pull up and knock down a shot. Great, 2-3 points on the board, get back on defense, run it back the next possession. That is what happens when you have LeBron on your team. And when he's not there, there's no one to replace him. Absolutely no one, especially in this current situation. Last year, we saw the same thing when Rondo was out and LeBron was on the court, right? Because when LeBron was on the court, they were fine. But when he was off the court, they sucked because they didn't have anyone that could run their offense like Rajon Rondo because, of course, he was out. When LeBron is off the court, this is just a team of shooters and maybe Anthony Davis if he's on the court. Or a team of shooters, maybe some solid defenders, but no one that can really create their own shot at a high level or no one that can create for others at a high level, meaning that their system is broken. They have to change their entire system in order to actually be successful as an NBA team when LeBron is on the court. And in a sense, and I'm not saying this is true, but in a sense, you could say he is so valuable to their team because he is the system that when he's not on the court, the team just feels like they don't have a shot. Just my take on things. Now, that's my argument. I don't know if you have anything else that you want to say in disagreements with that, or if there's anything that I didn't touch on that you, of course, have to bring up. But that's where I stand on it. I think that's not right.
My only take on that is actually how you wrapped it. Is if you have anything with disagreements, my argument isn't against the people in the comments. My argument is just my take. It's just how I see it as someone who's watched the NBA develop since the early 2000s. I love the NBA. Mm-hmm. So now it's not against anybody. It's my observation. It's not against LeBron, and it's not against the people who collect LeBron cards, who, by the way, most of the people commenting have massive LeBron collections. If you click on those profile pictures, it's like PC, LeBron, PC, LeBron and Mahomes, PC, LeBron and Mahomes. So a little conflict of interest, but no, I mean, it's a legitimate point, and there is only one LeBron. The guy's unbelievable. He's physically gifted, like no other. He's been in the league 18 years and relatively healthy. He can do a lot of things really, really well. I think his best qualities, he's one of the best passers and has some of the best vision I've ever seen. But my argument is layered. I also, before this, have always questioned LeBron's improvement. One of the things that frustrated me more than anything is that he had a lot of skills and talents, but his offensive game, especially shooting outside on the perimeter, always lacked. And I feel like it's actually gotten worse. Like he shoots these weird looking fadeaways now that I've never seen before. And I just feel like he's never improved his game. And as a result, he doesn't create a culture around him where other people and players around him improve their game as well. So yeah, I didn't even think that was that hot of a take. I just think it's this is how I see the game.
It was the way that you worded it. That's my because when the thing is, the way that it was worded was he does not make people more successful when he's on the court, which really in reality I would say is honestly a fact that it's not true. Because when you,
I would say most of my argument was when he's off the court. That had nothing to do with on the court.
That's just
it.
It was sound like that. I don't think it did. Like when I first heard it, I thought you were talking about on the court production. I'm like, that's a really stupid take because on the court, was one of the best passers that we currently have in the NBA. It may have, potentially that we have ever seen, like top 20 talent as far as passing goes. He's, got some of the best vision. He's unstoppable, ridiculously high IQ, and raises the production levels of everyone else. And still off the court, I would disagree. And I mean, once again, I think that comes down to more of a matter of opinion, because if you do look up, like, LeBron has made me a better player, first thing that pops up is Anthony Davis saying that LeBron has helped him significantly improve. I believe Kevin Love he said that LeBron has helped him improve, and then there's also been takes where he's struggled with alongside LeBron. Dwayne Wade has said that LeBron has helped him improve. I believe Kyle Korver has also said it at some point during interviews and talks like that. It kind of comes down to the player, because I also did see that you mentioned the ball, but I don't think that was necessarily LeBron's fault. I think that it was because it was the way that things were handled, right? You go from a rebuilding team to win now, and you have two players that play very similar play styles.
What about Kuzma?
Playmaking. Kuzma's Kuzma. You should not ask me that, because I hate the guy. I'm not a big fan of him whatsoever.
Me neither.
I mean, honestly, here's the thing though with Kuzma. I think Kuzma thinks he's better than he really is, and I feel like I don't know for sure. I haven't done research as far as how Kuzma feels about LeBron. I didn't even know that there was comments from Kuzma saying LeBron, whatever, hasn't made things clear about what his role is on the team. But in my opinion, the way I've seen it is people hyped up Kuzma a while ago, saying he's got some of the best potential out of the 2017 class. It's been proven that is not true, and he's a glorified sixth man at best. Maybe that's a little bit extreme or maybe over exaggerated, but that's kind of my take on things. And that kind of hurts him, and he still thinks that he does deserve a better role in this team or a bigger role in this team. And maybe LeBron disagrees, and that's something that they're taking out. I don't know. I have no idea about his LeBron and Kuzma situation, so I'm probably not the right person to ask about that. But that's my take on your take. So.
But dude, this is the beauty. Like I've said this to people, and this is what I want our network, our community to be about. We're allowed to disagree. We live in this world where we think that if we disagree, we have to hate each other. It's not the case. It's not the reality. And I wish that upon our community, because I started this network, I started this podcast to serve and help people and share stories and experiences from my life that, hey, this is what I'm seeing in sports. This is what I'm seeing in the sports card market, and this is how you could benefit. So I think the discourse, the disagreement, where we could respectively have opposite takes and understand, oh, I didn't know that, or I didn't see it that way. That's beauty. That's human nature. That's discussion. So I love that. I'm all for it. I didn't take offense by the comments. I actually think that shows the strength of what we're doing here, and how much we're growing and how much people care. So it's exciting for me. It really is.
Yeah, that's what happens. Things can get taken out of context sometimes, and I mean, very similar to Nick Wright, if you want to say it, right? I mean, you saw how I reacted. You saw how I reacted to his comments, and he probably could have worded it better or said something different. Like, because now I do understand where he was coming from, but the way that he phrased it, I do disagree. So I mean, things happen, shit happens like that. It is what it is, right? Nothing we can do about it anymore. But hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We'll see you guys next time. What was this? Episode 5. So next week will be episode 6 with playoff predictions.
Is it 4 or 5?
I have no idea. I thought this was 5. I think this is 5. I think this is 5. Anyway, we'll have an episode out next Monday for you guys, going over playoff predictions and stuff like that. I hope you guys enjoy it. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you.